customer service, done right, can be your company's single biggest competitive advantage. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution. Join customer service authority and best-selling author John DiJulius as he interviews leaders who are revolutionizing their industries. This is more than a podcast, though. It's a movement. The Customer Service Revolution is a radical overthrow of conventional business mentality designed to transform what customers and employees experience. If you're a revolutionary customer service leader who's ready to stop competing on price and obsessed with building a brand that people cannot live without, this podcast is for you.
Are you still guessing at ways to improve your customer satisfaction scores? Or how to hire and keep the best talent? Stop guessing and become knowledgeable. Join the Customer Experience Executive Academy and learn what the world-class companies already know. At the Customer Experience Executive Academy, you'll learn the methodology applied by world-class companies to create consistent, memorable moments that lead to happy customers and happy employees. Visit cxea.org or contact Claudia at DiJuliusGroup.com for more information on how to enroll.
Hello, revolutionaries, and welcome to Forgetting Customer Surveys and Learn the Real Customer Experience KPIs you should be measuring. So let's get after it today. You know, everyone has different sales streams, and people love to talk about, what percentage certain sales make up and all these different. But here's one thing. While you might have, half a dozen, 2 dozen different sales streams, different places where your sales comes from, all sales come from one place. 100% of your sales come from your customers, okay? And constantly people, CFOs, CEOs are looking at their P&Ls to cut expenses. But your biggest company's expense is dissatisfied customers that don't show up on the P&L, right? I mean, you got things like loss of sales, lack of referrals that you have to discount more, bad reputation, returns and refunds, higher turnover of customers and employees, lower employee morale, more training for new employees, more hiring, more advertising, and more service recovery and less secret service, less personalization because employees are new and they don't know the existing customers.
Hey there. Long time no see. Looking good.
Yeah. Let's just keep this simple. I want a divorce.
What now?
I think you heard me just fine.
Come on. This is me. What's wrong?
We don't talk anymore.
I just put down $1 million on a TV commercial just to talk to you.
Exactly. You do all the talking. I never get a chance.
Talk on our website, can't you?
Sure. If I want to say, order this product.
See?
It's not exactly a dialogue.
What about the print campaign, You can't tell me you missed the billboard in Times Square. That was like a 200-foot tall declaration of love.
You're saying you love me, but you're not behaving like you love me. It's not genuine.
I don't know. The agency said I was genuinely being funny. Genuinely being charming. They said you would love everything I did.
Would you keep your voice down? You're not doing a radio commercial. Look, whether you're funny or not, it's just, I've changed, and you haven't. I mean, we don't even hang out in the same places anymore. You're not even listening, are you?
Coupons. You want coupons, don't you? Look, come by the store. I got 2 words for you. Loyalty, reduction. Am I right? That was it, wasn't it? Let's just hug.
If you knew me, you'd know I don't care about that.
Know you? Sweetheart, I know everything about you. You're 28 to 34. Your online interests include music, movies, and laser hair removal. You have a modest but dependable disposable income. Am I the only one not getting the problem here?
I'm out of here.
Oh, come on. Don't be like that. Look, I'll tell you what. Come back here tomorrow. I'll give you the chance to win a Bahamas vacation. There's a small chance, minuscule, but technically still a chance.
So that's a great lead in to the constant struggle over budget dollars, right? And they're always fighting over the budget of next year and what goes towards marketing and advertising versus a customer service investment. Okay. And here's the annual spend for globally of advertising versus customer experience. Okay. $500 billion is spent annually on advertising, while $900 billion are spent on customer experience training. Okay. 500 billion to 9 billion. So let's see what has a better return. ROI, advertising or customer experience training. 75% of customers don't accept advertising as truth. 90% believe brand recommendation from friends. Repeat customers spend more than new. Repeat customers refer more than new. Repeat customers negotiate less than new. So it's said that to replace one repeat customer, the value that they bring, you need to get 5 new customers in. We need to stop focusing on on getting new and make sure we're taking care of the repeats. And then let's talk about sales leads. There's 3 types, right? There's a cold, there's a warm, and there's a hot, a smoking hot. Okay. The cold, right? We got to reach out to them. The warm is maybe they're coming through us because they saw our advertising, and a hot, the smoking hot, is that they have worked with us before, or someone told them they have to, do business with us. Okay. What's the price sensitivity on cold? It's unrealistic. We better be the best, the lowest, cheapest price. Warm, that came through advertising, that means they're calling 5 other places. They're looking for the best deal. And if they're repeat or they're referrals, they're not shopping us. Right? They're not talking to anyone else. They don't care. They know what they get, the value with us. And what's the close ratio on cold? It's a long shot. Medium on warm, and the close rate on the hot is very high. A 5% increase in customer retention can increase a company's profit by 75%. Let me say that again. A 5% increase on customer retention can increase a company's profit by 75%. 80% of your company's future revenue will come from just 20% of your existing customers. And look here, Tesla tops the most valuable car makers. Actually, Tesla is one of the most valuable company in the world. Forget the other car makers, right? They're the, not only, in the auto industry, but any. And then here's a tweet by Elon Musk. I hate advertising. Here's proof. This is Tesla's advertising spend versus competitors. Okay. You got GM, that's over $3 billion of advertising per year. Ford, that's near 2.5 million. And the list goes down. Tesla spent 0 in advertising, yet they're the most valuable car company in the world. One of the most valuable companies in the world in any industry, and they spend 0 on advertising. Don't penalize brand loyalty, right? All the advertisements that are out there are for new customers only, right? Switch and save. What would happen if we reverse the spending on marketing and advertising versus customer experience training? Well, this is what former CEO, founder of Zappos, Tony Hsieh says.
Philosophy is, let's take most of the money that we would have spent on paid advertising or paid marketing and rather spend it on that, invest it into customer service and the customer experience, and then let our customers do the marketing for us through word of mouth.
Worked out pretty well for him and Zappos when they sold to Amazon about 15 years ago for $2 billion, a little shoe company. Okay, this is what former CEO of Starbucks said.
But I believed very strongly that we could build a different kind of company. I never believed, never, I think it would have been arrogant to believe, that we could have 1,000, 2,000, or 7,500 stores in the US and around the world. But something really magical started happening. And it started happening as a result of not advertising or conventional consumer classical marketing. The fact is that Starbucks spends very little on traditional advertising. It started happening because we demonstrated to ourselves and now the world that to build an enduring, sustainable, long-term business and consumer brand, it's not about fancy marketing. It's about establishing a very powerful and unusual emotional relationship with the customer.
Love that. The companies that don't invest in customer experience have leaders who don't understand the financial impact it has. And listen, sales is a lagging indicator of the level of customer experience your company is providing. Joe Calloway, author and speaker, says, if you want to see how a company is doing now, look at the current sales. If you want to know how a company will perform in the future, look at their current customer satisfaction scores. So listen, I'm not a disbeliever in customer satisfaction scores, but people do have survey fatigue today. Now everywhere you go, you're getting surveys and your inbox and texts are blowing up, right? Why do traditional surveys fail? Well, again, survey fatigue, too many questions, it's too long, and too many surveys are marketing campaigns in disguise, right? The moment I get a survey about how well, they're asking how a company did, how happy I am, but then they ask if I know 2 or 3 people who would benefit from their services, it's no longer a survey. It's not genuine. They just want to get leads from me. Fred Reichheld, the father of the Net Promoter Score, NPS, he noted last week Vern Harnish's conference and emphasized that firms in the top of their industry in NPS outperformed the rest by over 5 times. However, he noted that the NPS score is only valid if you get 90% or more of your clients to answer those 2 simple questions. Okay, that's hard. I mean, it's hard to get a response rate. Listen, 25% is a good response rate in, promoter CSAT, net promoter scores. So that's a lot of work. Successful customer satisfaction, if you're going to do a CSAT, to get the highest response rate, here's some things you need to have in common. You want it as close to real time as possible, meaning don't send me a survey, an email, whatever, a week, a month later, right? It needs to be easy to do in a few seconds with a few questions. Basically, how do we do and why? Okay. If you think about the easiest one that kind of redid it is Uber. As soon as you get out of the car, it pops up and boom, you can, 3, 4, 5 star and it's done. So if you can replicate that, you're going to get a much higher response rate. But here's the thing, my only challenge with like an NPS is if you have the business model that can track it. Okay. I don't want NPS is asking your intent. Their question is, how likely are you to recommend us to a family or friend, right? And then the second question is why. All good with that. But if you have a business that can track if they're referring, I'd much rather know if you're taking action, what percentage of customers are taking action than their intent. Just because they say they, are a 9 or a 10 and likely to refer, but if they're not doing it, I'd rather know it. So if you can track it, referrals, loyal customers are a different breed. They just don't come back. They just don't simply recommend. They insist that your friends and families do the same. So if you have a business model that can track your customers and where they come from, and, if they repeat or not, this is better than anything and it's called, earn sales. It's taken from Fred Reichelt's book, Winning on Purpose. I think he calls it earned growth rate, right? I modified it a little bit. And basically, you have two types of sales, okay? You have bought sales, right, which is advertising, and you have earned sales, which comes from repeat customers and refers. So if last week, last quarter, last year, whatever it is, you had $1 million in sales, okay, you need to, and you can track it. And when you get new customers and you can track where they came from, right? Came from your SEO, advertising, Google, your billboard, whatever, the old days, yellow pages, right? Commercial on TV. Or I came from Joe Smith. He recommended, existing customer. Okay. If you can track that, then this is the number one. Everyone should be losing sleep at night over their earned sales. Okay. So, if you had $100 million in sales last period, whatever period is, and your repeat customers made up 50%, okay? Referred customers made up 32% of that. That means you had 82% earned sales, repeat and referred, which means bought sales would be the difference of 28%. You want to start tracking that number, right? As a company, as a department, as a location, as an individual, right? If you have consultants, lawyers, hairdressers, whatever you have, they should be losing sleep at night over their earned sales individually, right? We could do that with our consultants at the DiJulius Group. We can say, of the sales that you brought in last year, all right, well, technically the advertising they didn't bring in, they were given to us. We had to pay for that. That's bought sales. So we can track their earned, which is re-signs and referrals from their past and existing clients. So we track that, and then they have to work on that. How do you work on earned sales? Well, number one, you got to give a phenomenal experience. Okay. That's going to increase both your resigns, repeat, and referred. But you also have to bring up referrals. You have to mention how important that is. The highest compliment you can get is a referral of of someone they know, right? You have to talk about it, but you can't talk about it unless they are ecstatic with the job you've done or that you're currently doing. We work with a company that it's like a 35-day sales process, okay, from open to close. It's a mortgage company, and they build in at day 5, day 15, at a certain point of that loan process, to ask for a referral every so often, and then at the close. Well, you can't just automatically do that if the customer's complaining about something. Just because it's day 5 or it's at this point in the purchase process, you can't just say, all right, Mr. Smith, do you know anybody that would benefit from our services, right? You got to read the room. And if they're unhappy, that's not when you ask. You only ask when they tell you how great you're doing and how happy they are. And if you're not hearing that, you can't ask for a referral. If you are hearing that, you definitely should. I appreciate that. I take a lot of pride in what we do, in what I do. And, the highest compliment I get is a referral of a family or friend. So this graph that I'm showing is by a longtime client of ours, Carter Mario, injury attorney. Okay. And this is showing that the red there in the graph is advertising, clients that come from their billboards, their TV commercials, and the blue is referrals and repeat. So you can see, when we started working with them around the end of year 3, you can see in year 1, 2, and 3, their earned or their bought sales were 70% of their revenue. Okay. Most of it came from paid advertisement. Now you can see after they started working with the DiJulius Group, year 4, that started to go down, and their earned sales, repeat and referrals, started to go up to over 40%, to 50%. To year 7, they were near 70% earned sales, repeat and referrals, and 30% bought. That's all profit. That's all profit to the bottom line. So I want to talk about some price myth busters, okay, that goes with this. We were working with Worldwide Express, and they had 19% of their customers are leaving per year due to lower prices, right? So they thought. This is their founder, Jim Bennett, speaking at an event that I wasn't at, but this is what he explained of what he had to do to fix that. They were losing nearly 20% of their customers. They thought due to price, but it wasn't.
A key point in time where we hit about 80 million in sales, and we were growing fast, but we hit this point and we couldn't grow because our attrition rate was so high. We had 19% attrition, customer attrition. And my friend here said, listen, let's get John DiJulius involved. So I met with John, and he told me about all of his customer experience programs. He said, listen, why don't you try it out for a year? I said, we're going to commit to 3 years right now. And I turned to every single person in my company. I said, we are committing to a 3-year program, because that has to be the difference between us and the other 10,000 people who are out there selling our customers. So we hired them, and in 18 months, our attrition rate went from 19% to 3%. Our sales went from 80 million to 120 million.
Their customer retention or attrition loss went from 19% to 3%. That wasn't because of advertising. That was because of a better customer experience. It wasn't because of cheaper prices. All right. Their sales went from 80 million to 120 million. Let's stop focusing on getting the new customer, and let's focus on keeping and retaining the existing, and they'll create more earned sales, and we'll have to spend less on advertising. Also, make the one thing the one thing. All right. I can't tell you how many times I've heard this from a CEO saying, John, if you help us improve this one thing by 1%, it will mean millions of dollars in profit. Okay. So how do you make the one thing the one thing? If you have kids and you ever showed them the movie Monsters, Inc., this is how.
We have a 2319!
Red alert! Red alert! Red alert! Red alert! Red alert!
George Sanderson, please remain motionless. Prepare for decontamination.
Duck and cover, people!
Oh, not the CDA!
Coming through, please. Stand aside. Clear the contaminated area. This is a 2319 in progress. The area is clear. Coming through. Watch yourself. Stand back. Careful. All clear. Situation is 990. Ready for decon.
Hey, thanks, guys. That was a close one.
Okay.
I love that as an example of making the one thing, right? The obsession that bells and sirens go off if your one thing happens or doesn't happen, depending on what it is. So I'll give you a really good example. All right. New Day USA, they serve veterans, okay, and help them refinance and mortgage loans. They had what they call a VOO, VOO, veteran opt-out. Okay. So a veteran opt-out is after the veteran is approved for the loan, which is the hard part, is getting someone approved. Okay. Veteran is approved. 15% of their veterans were opting out before the loan closed. Okay. 15%. And the account executive said because they found a lower rate somewhere else. That wasn't the reason. Okay. 15% of VOOs, veteran opt-out, that's fumbling the ball at the 1 yard line. Every 1% of a VOO per month was worth $400,000 in revenue. Okay. So we had to help figure out why. And this is what their president and chairman, Rob Posner, said to me, John, if you could help us, reduce our VOOs by 1%, that will mean millions of dollars annually. Right? 1% is $400,000 a month. So we found out that the account executives were basically ghosting the veterans. All right. And what I mean by that is after a veteran got approved, again, the hard part, they were communicating with them less because they were focused on the veterans in the pipeline that they needed to get approved, but they weren't communicating with as often with the existing veterans in the pipeline saying, hey, your loans are going to close January 15th. Okay. And here's what we need. And then sometimes they didn't get what they needed, or something happened, or they needed something additional or whatever. And that close date went from January 15th to January 20th to January 25th. And they weren't communicating with that. And probably everyone here has moved and bought a new house, and you have to line up so many things for the close date. And if you don't know ahead of time, there's a lot of domino effect that happens. So we helped them create with their IT department. The account executive had to communicate with the veteran every 5 days. Actually, today it's every 48 hours. But back then when we started this, it was every 5 days. If they didn't communicate with them once a week, the loan would freeze up. If the loan freezed up, it was kind of like the clip from Monsters, Inc. Bells and sirens went off. Okay. The account executive couldn't access the accounts. Okay. The CEO, president, COO, the account sales, VP of sales, everyone was notified if an account executive's loan froze up. As an account executive, you don't want that to happen, right? Because you'd be talked to by about 5, 6 different people. As a result of this, their New Day's monthly VOOs went from 15% to 8%. Okay. Still think 8% is high, but that reduction in 7% of VOOs every month was over $2 million in revenue per month, right? Think about that. So you got to find out what your VOO is. What is the one thing that your company has to obsess over that will move the needle? And so that brings us to creating a ROX dashboard. This is what we do with our clients. This is what you can do. A return on experience dashboard. A few things that totally move the needle based on the experience your team, your brand consistently delivers. So things that you need to figure out, if you can, is what does a increase or decrease of 5% in customer retention mean to top and bottom line? You should be able to figure this out. What's a 5% increase or decrease in customer referrals mean to your top and bottom line? Close ratio, a 5% increase or decrease, a 5% increase or decrease in complaints, a 5% increase or decrease in new customers, right? The advertising versus referring, the percent of where they're coming from. That's the bought versus earn, right? You can track this and get it to the dollar amount. So that takes us to, how will you measure your customer experience? Where can your, a return on experience dashboard come from? Some common places, right? CSAT surveys and NPS. Those are valuable, okay? But they can't be the only thing. Customer retention and re-sign rates, if you can track that. Referrals. customer reviews online, Yelp, wherever they go. New customer source, that's the advertising versus referrals. If you can track lifetime spend, annual spend, the amount of customer complaints, first time call resolution, and the most important, if you can track it, is earned growth rate. All of those are fantastic resources. You only need 3 to 4. And that's where a return on experience dashboard it looks like. And you do it as a company, as a location, as a department, and individually. So there's this worksheet that I'm showing that, you can track by, how easy is it for you to currently track these things? Okay. Do you know your customer retention resign rate, NPS or customer satisfaction, earned sales versus bought sales, who in your company retains the highest percent of customers versus who gets the most referrals? Do you know what a 5% increase or decrease in those following things that the things I talked about have on your revenue and profit, right? And then part of this worksheet says, put a NA next to the ones that don't apply to your business, a 1 next to the things you're already tracking, a 2 next to the things you could easily track, and a 3 next to the things that you currently can't track but need to. And so again, that's the customer retention rates, resign rates, referrals, close ratio, complaints, new customer source percentage of advertising versus referrals, your CSAT survey, your NPS, your customer reviews, average customer spends, customer complaints, first time call resolution, and customer effort scores. Those are all great things. Shouldn't be tracking them all, right? You only need 3 to 4 things on your return on experience dashboard. So I'm going to show you here what a return on experience dashboard looks like. Okay, this is New Days. This comes out every Monday morning, and it goes to everyone, and it goes by department. It shows the percentage of people in their pipeline that went to a pimple. That's their pimple is a bad thing for most of us. And that means the percentage of people that went more than 48 hours of their veterans that weren't communicated with. Okay. And so these are their 3, 4, the referral rates, all these different things. And they track by company, by teams, and individual. They show this report every Monday, and they show the people who had, above the acceptable pimple rate and below. You do not want to show up on that, lower than what we call the Mendoza line, right? The acceptable pimple rate. Okay, this is focused, man. This is how you get that one thing you move the needle, and you can, the return on experience dashboard can have a huge impact to your bottom and top line. So work on creating a return on experience dashboard, make the one thing, focus less on advertising, more on retaining and getting more referrals, your earned sales versus bought sales, and invest in the customer experience training versus spending and wasting all that money on advertising. Thank you, revolutionaries. We'll be right back after this.
Thanks for listening in to this episode of the Customer Service Revolution podcast. I'm Denise Thompson, managing partner of the DiJulius Group, and I invite you to send us your questions, post a review, and let us know what you liked and want to hear more of. We're happy that you're part of the Customer Service Revolution and encourage you to subscribe now so you don't miss an episode. You'll find us on Spotify, iTunes, or your favorite podcast station.